Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Karpel. This is my talk on OpSec and PerSec, perspectives from the sidelines. Operational security and personal security have been part of my life since day one. Who am I? Army brat, later turned Army wife. In college, I have apologized to my roommate for many things. One of them is when she caught me working on my computer, and I vehemently told her I'm not a hacker. I will still say the same. In this presentation, I am planning to go over how the often forgotten coworker, significant other, child who is not directly part of the mission still plays a vital role in the mission's success. Practicing good operational security, known as OpSec, and personal security, PerSec, is important for everyone. Bits of seemingly unimportant information can be pieced together to reveal sensitive details about projects and personnel. Adversaries using open source intelligence, known as OSINT, techniques can gather these breadcrumbs of information, potentially jeopardizing the project. The chain of secrecy is only good as its weakest link, and educating and preparing those on the sidelines is crucial to addressing the growing concern. I started putting this presentation together last fall. While talking with some online friends, I pointed out something was a PerSec violation, and they told me, "What's that?" Similarly, I've found that many younger military spouses I run into frequently ask questions seeking information that violates OpSec, or they accidentally ask information that could violate OpSec and or PerSec as well. Things like someone's package got delivered to the wrong door. They will share, I've seen pictures, sharing the package, but also giving their full address as they look for it. This can be a problem. This isn't out of malicious intent. Many times it's simply unaware of how to keep themselves and those around them, including their service members, safe. Throughout my life, I've typically been on the sidelines. There are failures to OpSec and PerSec. Generally, they can be corrected. Unfortunately, sometimes they can be fatal. And the third, why should those of us without clearances, those without an active role in our ongoing mission, care about red team activities of their companions? I do wish to touch on that a little bit. So definitions, real quick. Both OpSec and PerSec do originate from the military, but apply now to operations that have little to do with military. As you hear in many of the cybersecurity webcasts by Black Hills and others online, I've heard from various different webcasts listening to them. You'll hear OpSec or that's OpSec. I've heard it mentioned in the Black Hills newscast several times in the last couple of weeks. If you want a quick course on it, TryHackMe even has a quick course on OpSec. OpSec no longer belongs to just the military. A couple examples, of course, would be the Department of Defense, cybersecurity professionals, and also protesters or those looking to change how their government works in their own countries. They all use OpSec, and they use PerSec to keep themselves safe when planning and executing before, during, and after engagements. Yes, acronyms can have more than one definition. I note up here that PerSec, in this case, we are talking about personal security, not personnel security. Both those acronyms are used by the US government. According to the United States Department of Defense, OpSec is not just a set of rules to be followed. We have 5 general steps, and sometimes you'll see it as 6 drawn in a circle, because the process must be continual. You want the red team to not have the information. We're continuing to deny an adversary information. For red team, though, specifically, the blue team is generally your adversary. Step 1, identify critical information. Some examples may be personal identifiable information, also known as PII, unclassified information requiring safeguard, procurement bits, inspection reports. It also might include deployment timelines, operations that are ongoing, mission capabilities, and limitations. In cybersecurity, this relates to tactics, techniques, and also appropriate non-overlapping. Make sure you have appropriate non-overlapping handles for operations. Step 2, identifying threats. A threat is not just an adversary, but an adversary that has capability and intent. This is important. treat it like you should know there is an op is a very good point for OpSec. Identifying threats. Threat's not just an adversary. I know I am repeating this. It is specifically an adversary with intent and to harm. Anyone with information and intent becomes the threat. Some examples of information could be geolocation data, listening to conversations in public, and gathering information off of social media to include blogs and chat groups. Yes, this also includes Discord. Step 3 is analyze the vulnerabilities. Where are they? Who are they? It's as simple as forgetting to take off your ID badge when you leave work. That can be a vulnerability. Sharing information on social media with family about ongoing operations, date changes. Now, let me tell you the story, and this has happened to many a frustrated military spouse. You log onto social media to see a fellow military spouse frustrated because another date of departure or date of return has changed. Why? Why, they ask? Well, many times the answer is that OpSec has been breached. Someone else in that very group shared the date and time of information. So for the safety of all, it had to be changed. Step 4, assess the risk. Determine what would be the effect of the information getting out. What level of impact will it have on the activity or operation? Once you assess the risks, in some places, you stop here and you restart the cycle. At any point, although it is a circle through step 5 and going in, sometimes you have to pause and go back. Step 5 is apply the OpSec countermeasures. One thing we hear in cybersecurity is do not hack where you sleep. You can pull up YouTube, go listen to the 10 hack commandments. Here's another story from the military side. My brother was returning from deployment. This was a good 15-ish years ago, as his National Guard unit was returning home via bus from their original redeployment location. We were told they were instructed to turn their phones off. This was to make sure that news of their arrival was limited to only those who absolutely need to know, which in our case was specific family members, not everyone, who had been alerted specifically by the chain of command, along with the USO, to be ready and what range of time, not exact time, to be waiting. Step 6, which is noted in some images for OpSec, is the ongoing analysis and may show this process as a circle. So NIST, which we generally go to as one of our documentations for cybersecurity, outlines the same thing the DoD outlines as well, where OpSec is a systematic and proven process. Once again, talking about adversaries, denying information about capabilities and intentions. We need to identify, control, protect, generally unclassified evidence of planning and execution of sensitive activities. And here are the steps again. Identify critical information, analyze threats, analyze vulnerabilities, assess the risk, and apply appropriate countermeasures. Step 2 includes training. So OpSec is a process, and then it also includes training. OpSec successes are very rarely told. OpSec failures, however, tend to sadly be publicized. We often don't hear about the successes. I want to share a couple historical successes with you, however. During the War of Yom Kippur in 1973, the Egyptian president managed to keep the Israeli intelligence community from knowing when Israel was going to be attacked. Another historical OpSec success occurred during the War of 1812. On the night of August 25th, 1814, the British, led by General Cockburn, left Washington, D.C. This was after burning the majority of the American government buildings to the ground, while the occupied citizens watched in horror. That evening, Cockburn had put a curfew on Washington, D.C., and quietly left. The entire British regiment left Washington, D.C. Their occupiers left without a sound. So when they woke up on August 26th, their occupiers were gone, and President Madison was able to return the following day. However, some OpSec failures. From a military perspective, some of these includes someone sharing things like, "Oh, my service member leaves Monday morning at 9 a.m. for Kuwait." Yeah, please don't say that. Your best defense is silence. Keep the information to yourself. As someone posted on Discord, pretend there's not an op. Don't share. Don't give the information. War Thunder. If you count all the countries, the forums of this game have been the unfortunate location for over 40 OpSec failures. Or classified information has been published by people just trying to prove a point. Per tradition, more restricted military material has leaked on War Thunder's last holiday season. In fact, the US military, unfortunately, has had over 13 instances. But what is an adversary? Well, it's an old quote, but it checks out. In World War II, British posters reminded citizens, everyday citizens, loose lips sink ships. In today's world, that isn't just what you say in person, but what you post online, your phone calls, your text messages, everything. Threats or adversaries know that information is available, and adversaries are looking for that information, so with the intent to use it and become threats. Then we have OSINT. Open source intelligence isn't just for red teamers. It's not just for blue teamers. Adversaries can utilize OSINT as well, and this will impact your OpSec and even your personal security. I highly recommend watching some videos by Michelle Kahn on the topic. 1 + 1 does equal 2. Multiple pieces of what otherwise would be unclassified information that are separate can be pieced together to become confidential or classified information when pieced together. Here's an example of such a poster from World War II, reminding citizens and armed forces alike the enemy was listening. The enemy is listening, it says. He wants to know what you know. Keep it to yourself. And I made myself a little note to tell you the swear jar would come in handy here, but if you want a musical representation for this whole thing, listen to the 10 Hat Commandments by Dual Core. They frequently share a reminder on this topic in a musical form. All right, so PerSec. It's kind of like OpSec, but for your personal security. PerSec or personal security, if it can help an attacker gain access to your life, then it is covered under PerSec. So you need to take what you know from OpSec and apply it to your personal life. The steps are similar. We're going to identify the thoughts, identify the steps, identify the threats. Are you oversharing on social media? Do your photographs contain metadata? Are your conversations public? Then we have step 2, analyzing vulnerability. It's honestly a balancing act. What you may choose one time frame in your life to be okay to be public may not be what you choose in the future. Personal security and choices regarding it are individual and situational. Honestly, this is one of the things my spouse and I talk about all the time. Every time we PCS, what information changes is allowed to be given out? What is allowed to be on Facebook? What is allowed to be told to our families? Can I do things like interact on Discord? Even submitting the proposal for this presentation had to be discussion. Everything is situational. And that goes into assess your risk. The risk you're willing to take today may not be the same as you're willing to take in the future or the same ones you're willing to take in the past. And then you have to apply your own countermeasures. This is an ongoing cycle, just like OpSec. Once you've identified your weaknesses, you assess the risk and decide which countermeasures you are going to take personally. Going back a moment to identifying critical information, this is things like sharing your anniversary, your birth date, other important dates in your life may be a violation of your personal security. There's also things like last holiday season, I happened to see a common Christmas ornament being shared, and people were taking their house keys, pressing it in to clay or other substance to make an impression, and then they were writing their address next to it to make Christmas ornaments to hang on the tree. But they were sharing it on social media. With those images, the keys could then be created on 3D printers. So PerSec is a balancing act. It can include what information you intentionally share with others, such as, do you need others to know you have a hidden disability? Or is it not the right time to share that? Or do you have a life-threatening allergies that those in your circle may need about? Because personal security also includes those in your tight-knit circle. So what information gets shared with your immediate circle, but you may or may not choose to share it with the wider audience? Are you planning to go bar hopping with friends after a conference, but you're allergic to alcohol? You might want to tell somebody. And yeah, you might not want to ask me why. That's an example. PerSec is not all about secrecy. For some fellow humans, it may be carrying protection orders in their wallets. It may be finding out your friends actually don't go by their legal names online, on Facebook, and other places where we're expected to go by our legal names. They might not. To keep themselves safe from other humans in their past. The reality many of us face. May also be spending years being quiet in the background. Some of us sit back in the background because we're refusing to engage in communities we love and wish to be part of, simply from knowing that there are threats that exist that may be present too. Accessing risk leads in to what you are choosing, as much safety as possible, while also keeping yourself as free as possible. As no man is an island, much to the chagrin of introverts, research keeps proving we need to be around other humans. You can take courses to boost your knowledge in intelligence gathering and security, and apply that knowledge to keep your own data safe. Look at things from different viewpoints as well. Our ingrained bias causes us to miss important data points. So we got to look at our surroundings from a different view. What do you see? I frequently see that I cannot look at the world as a normal civilian. I have always grown up where there are military operations going on. I wish to apologize to my friends here when there are times where I am silent or I cannot tell you what's actually going on as much as I want to. Or sometimes I'll say, when I can, I'll share it. And if you see something, if you do see a breach of OpSec with your red team, alert the individuals, alert the authorities if necessary. You could, in the process, save lives. I found this cool. Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent spillage. It deals with OpSec. Notes to prevent spillage. If you won't give that information to a stranger, if it violates OpSec or PerSec, you shouldn't feed it to AI either. OpSec is used in deception as well. In World War II, the British populated a myth that carrots were good for your eyes, even when they could help, and they could even help you see in the dark. The deception was used to convince the Blitzkrieg pilots that that's why they were getting shot down. Everyone was eating carrots. It was actually radar technology that had been developed. You got to keep quiet, even when it's funny. Humans are social creatures. You might hear a funny story about a mission project. You might know that your red team is about to send out some really funny phishing email and you want to see if people are getting caught. You've got to keep it to yourself. You got to wait. You might find it hilarious, but you got to keep it to yourself. Laugh with the other red teamers. Don't share it with others. Let their missions go forward. Stay safe, folks. It's extremely difficult to talk to friends. Find new topics of conversations that don't violate operational security or don't violate your personal security. I've heard ones such as people posting, oh, my service member's in the field and I'm all alone, and sharing their address because they want to have friends over. If it's in a public space, that is not a good spot for that information. Are we staying offline? Am I staying offline? No. Sometimes you just have to curate your audience. utilize privacy controls on social media, change your password regularly, to use two-factor authentication. If you're having a phone call in the grocery store, sharing opinions and thoughts about current operations in public is a danger. You could actually accidentally share timelines or other bits of information. And that goes for both personal and operational security. If you get a call and you're out in public, watch what you're sharing. This is not a time to share birth dates and full names if you're in public. Slip off somewhere where you can say that in private. Falling under both the operational and PerSec frequently comes questions of what do you do or what does your spouse do? As a young person, I simply said, my dad is in the military or my dad works for the telephone company. As a young adult, I was taught that it doesn't stop. And instead, you teach your spouse to give generics about what you do. You teach, you review. And with your children, what is allowed to be said when out of the house about what mom and dad do? Be generic, unless it's necessary, absolutely necessary to be specific. I work with computers, or, oh, they work with computers, covers a lot of ground. The chain of secrecy is only good at its weakest link. So educating and preparing those on the sidelines. Yes, our spouses and our kids, our friends that we talk with all the time, this is important. OpSec's not just for the military or for red teamers, it's for everyone. Therefore, it's important to train those who are around us who are not part of the original data keepers. With surrounding people trained further, they act as control rods for the information. To quote a friend, you can't live like you're always at war. You got to trust somebody. If you see something, say something. Many folks don't appreciate keyboard warriors, but if you see something breaking OpSec within your organization, try to gently correct it as soon as possible. And keep reminding friends and family not to break OpSec, talk in private, use encrypted apps like Signal for messaging.
And thank you again for sharing your time with us and your knowledge. Always appreciate that. So for those of us early in our careers, what are some good first steps in cleaning up old PerSec? It's from Daniel. Soon.
First steps to cleaning up old data. I would recommend, when possible, deleting old accounts, cleaning things up. If you're dealing with Twitter or Facebook, you might set things to private. I know me personally, I looked through several videos by Michelle Collin and John Strand on personal security. And also Michelle Collin has, I think I have it in the last slide. Yes, his operation secure privacy.com. And I found that to be quite helpful. I haven't gone as deep as I wish, but I highly recommend that to other people who are trying to clean up their digital footprint and secure things.
To
Yes.
follow up on that one, personal question that I've had people ask me about and love to get your input on. Organizations like Join DeleteMe and some of those other commercial applications that allow you to delete your information off the internet. Do you see any value in those? Is there a different tactic that people could use instead of the commercial? What are your thoughts on that?
I see value in it, but I also hesitate with it for this reason, is many times they ask for a lot of information up front, and that automatically throws some flags to me. How much do I want to give them information-wise in order to get other information offline? I was just before, I didn't add it to the slides because I located the data right before this, but there's information where people's houses, homes have addresses if they're a business. And I was looking up how to get that information off Google Maps. So there's ways you can do it manually. It's time consuming, but it is possible. It's just organizations that they want money for it and they're asking for a lot of private details up front. To me, that just automatically throws up some red flags and I get concerned before handing over more data, especially when you're trying to get data offline.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question, Eric?
No, absolutely. So we've seen a couple of the applications where we gave just bare minimum, like name, age, city, and like just go find stuff.
Yeah.
And then we kind of married it. It's like, yep, that's actually me and things of that nature. So I was kind of curious of those because I was always the impression like, oh, we're about to turn over a bunch of information, like you stated, to go find more information about us. I'm like, but at the end, you're trying to match up all that data so you can get it removed. So it's kind of,
It's a
you know,
catch-22,
it
and it
is,
is a
yeah.
hard balancing act.
Hmm. Hmm.
Thank you. Sorry, going through. So is there any if like OpSec or PerSec is breached, what are probably like some of the best remediation steps just initially to start taking then?
When it comes to personal security, if it's just dealing with online stuff, you can do your best to delete the information that's out there or mark it as private, guard who can see it. Um, Maybe change some of the information or watch what you say or do in the future. In terms of operational security, if you see it breached or you are the breach, you should let someone know. Unfortunately, in some cases, that means taking screenshots to military police. It's not a comfortable topic, but it is something if you see mission data being compromised, they need to be aware so they can take proper measures to get it removed. And if I'm not mistaken, War Thunder actually has a community guideline on not sharing confidential and um, private information concerning military tactics and vehicles, and people still definitely share information that is not publicly available on those servers. So the different militaries around the world have had to request those removed. I'm using that as an example because it's a pretty widely known. There's been a lot of breaches there. It's become a
Yeah.
joke at this point, sadly.
Next question from Joseph, which to me, the question gives the answer already, but I'll lob it up for you to take a stab at. How do you remove information that is not removable on the dark web?
I don't have an answer for that one. I honestly stay off the dark web. Um,
I would almost say, Joseph, you kind of answered your answer in the question because it's on the dark web. You can't remove it from the dark web.
yeah.
Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do.
Once it's out there, unfortunately, it's out there. I
Yeah.
saw someone mentioned healthcare trackers. You definitely, if you are wearing a Fitbit, be careful of where that data is being shared. I I stopped wearing my Fitbit when I I started getting targeted ads for pregnancy and other things because I forgot to log data. And that was oh, I'm done using this. It's off. It's not on my
Oh,
wrist
wow.
anymore. Um, because my Fitbit thought I was pregnant. And I was like, okay,
Hmm.
it was cross sharing data with ads, and I
Wow.
did not appreciate that. So yeah, the Fitbit went.
Oh, tidbit. Speaking about that, I know this is a little bit off topic, but there was a article that was posted yesterday or the day before where the new generation of Amazon Echo will be uploading any and all audio that it hears for its generative AI platform now. So if you got an Echo inside of your house, you may want to consider the security implications of that. I know it's always been a questionable item, but Amazon came out one day this week, I think it was yesterday, and said, yep, we are going to start recording everything as of March 28th, I believe the date said, and we're going to be sending it up.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, we do have an Amazon uh, device that
Device.
can listen if we hold the button on the remote. There was a very specific conversation on that in our house, and that it had to be a physically enabled thing, not something that would be always listening.
If I read the article correctly, it was with a software update or firmware update, whichever one you want to call it, that it was going to enable that by default.
That's
I'll try to
not good.
dig it up and send it over into Discord chat.
Thank you,
And
Eric.
yeah,
Yeah, so with this kind of discussion here, there's another question that comes up. How do you balance security
yep.
and paranoia? That's a fantastic question. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one, Jessica.
It can be hard. It can be very difficult. I mentioned being an army brat and then later spouse and never knowing a time in life where there wasn't some kind of military operation. Um, I was a Cold War baby. So, or I am a Cold War baby, however that phrase actually goes. It is very hard to balance and learn to trust people at times when you know that screenshots can be shared, that data can be shared. Um, security verb, risk tolerance might be a thing. It's a situational choice.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different like things that you could probably think about within life where if you spend enough time thinking about like, all the implications of things, like you're always just going to go down a negative route and you're always going to be end up like paranoid because you're just constantly thinking of like here's all of the bad things and here's what could come of this. And I think as we
Yeah,
go through
you
these
did.
things, we learn like the good, the bad, and we learn, I think just as human beings to filter some of this and to operate and function. I hate to say normally because that's not a thing, but I think we just we learn how to operate and function. For some of this stuff, especially when it comes to security, knowing as much as we do about things, I think we always hear about or see different things that are happening within, with people or whatever, and the security things that they're doing, and you're like, oh my gosh, like please don't be doing that. No, no, stop, 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 right? I don't think that ever like, that never ends really for us, right? But I think as we go through and we learn, different experiences in life, we learn how to, again, I think filter some of this and prioritize things or, whatever, structure them in a way that you're able to function and just kind of, I guess, go on without being like sticking to the paranoia. Instead, you're just like, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense to y'all. But I
It
think as you
makes
go through
sense.
life, like you're figuring these things out.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give a quick example talking about the paranoia versus security. There was a video John Tran did a couple years ago on, and it included a piece about clothing and what we wear out and about, and like the black hoodies and such, and finding things that are pretty generic. So, what you may wear in your community, if you travel farther, you may choose to wear something different or less identifiable. Also, internally in the house, like you may choose to have a robotic vacuum, but you may choose to find one that's not going to map your home. Those would be the balancing acts that I see for
Yeah.
personal security. Operational security, the best thing is share it with only the people who absolutely must know, and the rest of it keep to yourself.
And then here's a question from Ryan. Can increasing the noise or disinfo out there about you help in hiding?
I have heard yes. And that is different. Disinformation is something that is used as part of personal security.
Mm-hmm.
There's some limited ways you can do that. And there are some major ways you can do that. The major way I would put is putting your real name and information, use it less, or not use it at all online. Put other information that's directly attached to your real name with the digital information. Obviously, when people are using LinkedIn and they're using it for resumes and stuff, you want to be able to give them the real thing. when I was first Googling myself, I found that there was someone with my identical name at a school that I had really wanted to look for. Uh, and that was fascinating, but that's also showed me different pieces of disinformation I couldn't use because I did not want to adversely affect their life. So when you choose to put information out, you also have to remember it's not going to just affect you. There are people that it will also affect.
Question is from an anonymous attendee. How to dig and find the misinformation about a person?
I would definitely um, recommend in that case using the different OSINT skills and techniques taught by Michelle Kahn, talking about trace labs, and use perhaps um, a program like Obsidian to write your notes in and start the web of details you find and start filtering through the noise. But as HK mentioned in chat, that's what Michelle Kahn's class is for.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good information out there and a lot of great people to listen to that have a lot of knowledge in this.
Do
And
you feel, Jessica, just
yes,
as a piggyback onto that, that when people go down that rabbit hole of intensity, that they're really going to start finding stuff that may not actually be true, may actually believe the misinformation or disinformation as quote unquote factual items and really do more mental harm to them than not even starting the process? That's the part I worry and fear about.
are we talking about searching for information on someone else or searching for information on themselves?
Let's just say somebody else.
Somebody else, if you start believing false things are out there, it can really destroy your friendships. Um, you have to, things can be doctored. False information can be out there, and you do have to be wary of what you believe. And it can be hard to learn and remember you can trust others. Once trust is broken, it is very hard. It is very hard to get it back. And it's very hard to practice trusting other humans when trust has been broken in that, and that does affect mental health. And I apologize. I do have specific examples, but I cannot give them on recorded.
No worries.
Mhm.
The part that I really worry about, just a bit back up what Jessica's saying, is when you go down and you start looking, let's just say Bob Smith, houses down, you've been seeing him doing something kind of goofy and shady, and you're going to start digging into him. It's like, what is this guy all about? If you see 4 articles that he loves panda bears, you're going to believe he loves panda bears, but naturally he doesn't like a panda bear to be 100 miles close to him type of thing, right? So you just got to be careful about what you see because if there's enough of it, you know,
It can paint a
it,
totally different
yeah,
picture.
yeah. So just I just say be careful of anything you see online these days.
Right? Yeah, AI with that too, right? It's just made everything much just different. We'll just say different. Let's go with that word instead of any other word. Thank you very much, Jessica, for joining us today again, sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you